Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about the super exciting collaboration with Pat McGrath and Bridgerton. This parcel has finally arrived at my house and I'm super excited to test these today with you. I really hope it's not too late and that you guys are not bored of it already, but this actually launched a little while ago and when it came to shipping, it was a little bit on the slower side. I'm not sure if they were just processing an overload of orders, but for me, I finally received them. So let's talk about the collection. We do have the eyeshadow palette, which is actually a 6-pan eyeshadow palette. It is one of her little mini motherships, if you will. It's just a collection with Bridgerton, so it's in the cardboard packaging. This packaging, though, is definitely still on point. I absolutely love all of the detail that has gone into this packaging, and if you have watched the show, you know that this is very Bridgerton themed. It is extremely on point when it comes to outer packaging. We also have the same outer packaging repeated in the blush and highlight trio. So this is actually a trio with existing shades in it. It's not going to be a brand new shade specific for the collection. This is just a trio of existing shades in a limited edition packaging style. Then we also have the two Sublime Skin highlighters. I did pick up both of them. One of them is incredibly yellow gold. We'll talk about that one. But I will be sharing both of these, and I think I'm going to be using the yellow gold highlight as an eyeshadow in the future. So let's start with the eyeshadow palette. I was a little bit worried about the eyeshadow palette because in the past, Pat McGrath has had some hit or miss formulas when it comes to her cardboard packaging. I think it was a few years ago now, she did a tri-fold of a few palettes. I want to say 3 of them. And the mattes were a little bit drier than I would like because she normally has this really insanely creamy matte formula that I've seen in her 10-pan mothership palettes that are made in Italy. And I was kind of hoping that that was repeated in the previous palettes she did when she did downsize on the packaging a little bit. But that's why I'm kind of curious how this one's going to go. In recent years, she's done her Christmas palettes in cardboard packaging and the quality has been phenomenal. And I really like to see that because the cardboard packaging, I think makes it a little bit more of an attractive price point because we're not paying for the black lacquer, really luxury packaging, but I still want her quality to be maintained, right? I did share my initial thoughts on this one a little while ago, I think. I was kind of like, I'm not really sure why the pinks are included in this one. I think it's because Bridgerton to me is a very purpley blue theme overall, and the pinks seemed not like out of place, but they just seemed a little bit like a missed opportunity for a color story like this to maybe include a little bit more like purples closer to this blue or like lilac purples. There is this purple here, but it's kind of like a deeper brown purple, same with this matte. So I kind of wish there was like brighter purples in here instead of the pinks, but that's just me kind of nitpicky. We haven't even touched the shadows yet, and I'm sure that they're going to make some beautiful looks. I have seen a couple circle around on social media using the pinks, so I'm going to try to use the others, the purples, because I don't think a lot of people are dabbing into that as much. They're sort of combining the bright pink and the shimmer. I'm going to start by priming my lids here using my OG Smashbox 24 Hour and just smoothing it over the lid here. I give it about 30 seconds or so just to make sure it's like fully set. It sets down really, really fast. I'm going to pull my hair back as well in a second because my bangs, even though they're not in front of my eyes, I just feel like I have more room to work when my hair is tied back. I don't know if that's just me, but I don't know. It's weird because I only tie back the one side. I don't tie back the other one. So there we go. Okay, I'm actually wearing a light blue sweater as well, so this might actually match a little bit. The official name of this is the Pat McGrath Labs Times Bridgerton Diamond of the First Water Mothership Palette, and this is one that is 65 American dollars or 88 Canadian dollars. Primer should be ready now, so I'm actually going to go in with this first shade here on the top left-hand corner. This is kind of like a peachy pink shimmer shade. And it actually looks so beautiful and feels very similar to her other shimmers that she's done. It's sort of like, I mean, it's a little bit more opaque than a highlight, but it's kind of like highlighty in nature. And I'm just going all over the lid with this one. This is the lightest shade in the palette. It's nice to kind of have a lighter shade right at the beginning, just so you can kind of set your foundation for the overall look. But so far so good. It is applying very similar to her other shimmers. Like medium opacity as well. I'm looking at for fallout here, nothing so far. Again, I'm just using my Wing Gloss number 18. This is a really nice one just to kind of go all over the lid with. It's part of his eye set. Only complaint I have with this shimmer, and it's minor, is it sort of accentuates texture a bit. If you have eyelids that maybe have some texture going on, I do think because of how shimmery this is and kind of the texture of this shade, it's going to amplify it a little bit. Next, I do want to go in with this purple shimmer. What is this one called? This is on the bottom row of the palette here, dead center. It's called Duchess Divinity. Oh, that's nice. It's actually kind of like a nice collaboration between the brands, because Duchess is such a used term in Bridgerton, the show, and then Divinity is like celestial divinity, you know? I think that's actually really smart. So good job, Pat, on that branding. That is really, really nice. Same brush with this, actually. I'm just going to layer over top. This is actually a very similar formula to the first shade that I used, and you can see that it's actually layering very, very nicely. Almost looks very foiled altogether, if you guys can see that. Like, even just leaving this is just such a gorgeous combination. Making sure that your eyes, especially if you have hooded lids like me, fully relaxed. Using the remainder, nothing like crazy heavy on your brush, but just the remaining pigment to kind of edge out a little bit. Not bad, right? So far so good, for sure. It's typically the mattes and the satins that can get a little bit sort of off with her cardboard packaging and collaborations. So the first matte I'm going to use is actually the deepest matte in here, the deepest purple, I should say. I think that's more fair to say, which is right here. And this one is called Plum Regalia? Oh dear. Anybody knows how to say that properly, please let me know. Using this Sonia G mini booster, I'm going to go in with this matte. Careful with this one though, because actually the brush is picking up pigment very quickly. Oh, you see that? Look at that. Like right off the bat pigment. So this is definitely a matte that is characteristic of the motherships, which I'm like, yes. That is exactly what I am after here. Definitely got that quality of that creaminess, the opacity. The way it's translating on the lid is absolutely gorgeous. Still no fallout here, so that's nice. But you see how this look, you could just stop right here and just leave it and like obviously do the rest of your makeup, but like this is actually really pretty just by itself. One of the shades I'm really curious with is actually this icy blue. When I was doing the swatches earlier, which I'll show you in the video for sure, so stay tuned for that, I noticed this one is actually a little bit more glitter heavy, more of like a topper. It does have some pigment underneath, like color underneath, but there's a lot of shimmer, like it's a very shimmer forward shade. So I think I am going to attempt hopefully this doesn't ruin this makeup, but I think I'm going to attempt to put a little bit with my fingertip on this look. Whoa, this is super pretty. If you see how thin this shade is, it actually does work really well. If it was more opaque, I think it might clash a little bit more, but the fact that it's actually quite frosty, very shimmer forward, I think this one does amplify this and give it a little bit more to look at. Application with the fingertip did give me a little bit of fallout on the cheeks, but literally minimal. So that's really impressive. Sometimes when you're working with really shimmer heavy Pat McGrath formulas, they tend to fall significantly. I'm more so talking about like Venus and Furs, like that quad is literally showering you with shimmer sometimes, depending on how you work with it. This is one that has very, very minimal. Like I can barely see some flecks here and there, but certainly not like the shower of glitter that can sometimes happen. Adding a little bit of depth here just because we've added that shimmer. Just a little bit more. Took a little bit of a risk and actually tested the softer pink on the bottom lid. I was like, am I gonna look sick? But I think it's okay. If I did the darker one, I think it might have been on the sickly side. This is like a nice soft baby pink. So I'm actually using the flat definer from Sonia G and going in. I'm gonna actually just use my smaller brush so you guys can see what I'm doing here. Underneath the lash line here. The pink that I did use is actually in the center of the top row, and this is actually a satin formula. This is one that actually is super smooth as well, so I'm really, really pumped about that. The satins, like I said earlier, can also be a little bit like, are they too stiff? They're not as creamy as some of her other formulas before, but they're not. They're actually perfect. This is so, so close. Like, I would say these are getting very, very similar to what she can offer in her 10-pan Mothership palettes. I still think that's the best that she can offer when it comes to artistic ability with the amount of formulations that she puts in one palette. This is really, really good. We have a shimmery shade. We have some satin, some mattes, some shimmers. It's perfect. Even though I've got a little bit of some qualms with the color story, thinking the pinks may or may not belong, I still think that the quality is there, and I still think that the variety of formulas that you get is also really, really nice. Sometimes she'll just do like matte and shimmers, and that's really all, but this one has a lot of variety too. For the sake of testing every single shade out, I am going to add just a smidgen of the last pink. I didn't want the pink to be the highlight of this look. I really wanted more so the purple hues to come through, but I'm going to see just how this one applies so I can report back a first impression right away for the entire palette. This is the last one here on the bottom right corner. This one is called Love Match. Using a, what's this brush? This is the BK Beauty 207. And I'm gonna lightly dab this one because I don't want the pink to be the focus. I just want to add a little bit of a hue. Oh yeah, okay. So even though there's like a teeny bit of that pink added, I can already see just from like a quick snapshot, I can see that this one is going to have very fast pigment pull, but of course I'm going to do more of pink looks while I'm testing it so that I can actually see how far this goes and really how well this performs. But from adding just a little bit of that hue, I was like, oh yeah, she's got some pigment behind her and she does have that really nice application style that I'm really happy with when it comes to Pat McGrath's formulas. Gonna finish the rest of my face before we advance to the next ones. I'm super excited. We're gonna talk about the highlights and the blushes next. Let's chat about the highlights next. Now there are two highlights in this collection. One of them is a really like beautiful white kind of shimmery color. The other one is an extreme gold, gorgeous like rich yellow gold color. So I'm gonna do well, first of all, I'll show you. The outer packaging is continued with the highlights as well. The only thing is that with the highlights, once you actually take them out of the exterior packaging here, the Bridgerton cardboard packaging does not continue. So you have a little bit of a different packaging of the product itself. It does have that really cool like Lady Whistleblow, what's her name? Whistlebottom? Lady Whistleton? I've literally seen this show once. Lady Whistledown. Lady Whistledown. Said everything but what it actually was. But this is kind of like that same really cool like royalty, really nice outer packaging. This is similar to her other highlights. Now, I'm not sure, I mean, I get what she was doing here with this, kind of continuing with this lacquer packaging style. So this is from another highlight she has. It's a metallic ultra shimmery gold, but similar in packaging style. Although I wish the cardboard packaging was continued just because this is a limited edition release, I do like that the trio has the cardboard packaging with the Bridgerton stuff. So we'll talk about that next, but this is the first one, the lighter of the two. This is called Incandescent Gold 002. Same beautiful detail packaging with this. It has the crown with that really beautiful fairy in it. So it's got that collaboration between Bridgerton and Pat McGrath Labs. The crown with the crest has been done by her before. And I'm going to show you guys the Lunar Nude highlight. This is the crown by itself. So you can see it was just the crown with the crest and everything. She's done this design before and it's absolutely stunning. I really, really love the embossment. It actually goes quite deep. It's a very tightly pressed embossment. The embossment doesn't make it impossible to pick up pigment, but rather because of the ridges, it can be a bit uneven on the brush. So to me, it's not really a deal breaker per se. I actually do like how the embossment will remain in this powder basically until you finish it. There's some that are so lightly pressed that after a few uses, you don't even see it anymore. So it's nice that this is in the powder for some time. So I'm actually going to take my highlight brush. This is just from Sephora collection, and I'm going to pick up this incandescent gold for my cheeks. Just dabbing motions first to see how blinding we're talking. This sort of has a little bit of a yellowness, a slight yellow undertone to it. Whoa, that's really shimmery. But I do love it. So pigment forward for sure, which I love, and that's consistent with her other highlights as well. You do have to be careful though, because I wouldn't say it accentuates texture that badly, but I think it does a little bit. That's why I think maybe keep a little bit of a lighter hand with maybe over your texture, but I do think it kind of adds a bit of a spotlight to texture, unfortunately. Not as bad as some, but certainly something that is possible. So this is what I would do. I would just leave it here. I wouldn't do anything else. I'm certainly not going to do the gold on my cheek, but I'm going to show you the gold because I do want you to see it. And I figured that I'm going to include this in eyeshadow looks in the future, but from how it swatches, it is similar in texture compared to the incandescent gold. But look how yellow gold that is. It is like really richly yellow, and the pigment behind this is insane. So this would be a stripe on my skin tone for sure. So not going to do that for the face, but when it comes to eyeshadow looks, I can't wait to play with it. So same design in this one too. And I just wanted to show you guys the swatch in comparison to the incandescent gold because it is a very distinct difference between the two. The highlights are 60 American dollars each or 81 Canadian dollars, so significant. We do have, though, how much product in here? We have 10.5 grams in each one, so that is actually quite a bit of product for the compact itself. So the trio is a collection of 2 blushes and a highlight, which are part of Pat McGrath's permanent collection. So just so you guys know, I actually don't mind the detail and the design of this one. This is actually a really nice cardboard. It's not flimsy, it's not cheap feeling, it's nice and smooth, so they did a great job with it. Now, inside we have the trio here. I'm going to be careful not to put my finger right in that blush, but there are 3 existing shades. The first blush is Cherish. The second one is Nymphette. The third one is Venus Nectar, which is a highlight. So when you see these swatched, they actually swatch very similar to the permanent collection as well. Every time I see something duplicated in a limited edition kind of package of some kind, I just want to make sure that the quality is maintained from the permanent line, because if you have a permanent blush and you love it and you're super excited for this trio because these might be 2 colors you don't have, and then you find out that the quality is somehow different, it's really heartbreaking. I don't have the shade Cherish, I don't believe. Like this bright pink I definitely don't have in my collection. I do have Nymphette and I do have the Venus Nectar. So these are shades that I already have, but for the sake of being a reviewer and wanting to make sure that that consistency is maintained, I picked it up just to make sure so I could report back to you guys. So the blush I'm going to pick up is Nymphette today. Because I know very well how this one performs, I'm going to make sure it's the same quality. Her blushes are very pigmented, so I'm going to be careful here. I'm going to adjust my mirror. I always like to go just softer first, because then you can always build, right? If you go too crazy, it's hard to take away. Very beautiful. It is definitely performing how I'm used to from her. This is also a Sephora Pro Collection brush. It's funny, I have some Sephora Collection brushes that I love just as much as the BK Beauty Synthetics, the Sigma Beauty Synthetics, the REPHR Natural Hair, the Wayne Goss Natural Hair. It's funny, like I'm just like, these are really nice brushes for a really nice price point. All right, guys, we are back. This is the final look with everything on. I think it's super, super beautiful. This lipstick is actually Christy by Pat McGrath. It's one of her matte trance, and I do think it's a really nice, beautiful pink that works with this look. Been getting a lot of requests to see this guy, so figured I would do a quick little outro with him in it, but I hope you guys really enjoyed this testing the new Pat McGrath and Bridgerton collection. Don't forget to subscribe if you love high-end and luxury makeup reviews. And until my next one, Harvey and I say take care and stay safe. Bye, guys.